Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Jackie and today we're going to play with the Strawberry Soiree box by Bargain Bead Box. So I've already packed everything up in my box, and so I have a lot of strawberry quartz to work with and cherry quartz and then some glass crystal beads. And today I think I want to play with these teardrop beads. So that all came in a set. And I'm thinking I'm going to make a necklace here and then pair of earrings. And I wanted to accent them with the green little crystal beads. And then I've got the silver bead caps for these. And then some extra from my stash. I've got some really tiny little silver beads. So I just want to use those to accent. So it's going to be a really pretty necklace, so I'm going to get started and we're going to play with it. So I'm going to set these back out of my way. Try not to shake my camera. Sorry if I do. Okay. And so what I have here is I have a couple of tiny little crimp beads. I've got my crimp covers, and they've got the double loops on them, which really help when working with any kind of wiring. I've got my pretty little bead caps. So they've got little flowers on them. I think they're so cute. So I'm going to move those back a little bit so I have room to work. And the tools that I'm going to use today, let's see, I've got some jump rings, so silver jump rings. I'll need a couple of those. Of course, I've got my little silver beads and my bead scoop, because I rely on this thing. Can't live without it. And the tools I've got are my wire cutters, my needle nose pliers, and my flat nose pliers. And then I've also, for the earrings, I've got a little bit of silver 24 gauge wire that I'm going to work with. And then, of course, as usual, I have some tiger tail. Now, I've learned I get these, you can get these at restaurants or anywhere, like when you order out, but especially with Chinese, so that you can always get your soup in there. So this is a good place to keep my tiger tail wire, because it keeps it from unraveling. I don't really like to put those in bags, but this works perfectly for me. So I'm going to pull a length of tiger tail, and I have to decide what I want. But just, I don't know, maybe 10 inches or so. I don't usually measure, but I do kind of go a couple inches past on each side, just to make sure I have enough room to crimp and, pull my wire. Okay, so simple as that. So I'm going to finish off the first end. So what I like to do, and I'm going to bring my magnifying glass down just so I can see it, and hopefully it won't end up in camera, but it does help me to see. All right, so I'm going to thread my crimp bead. And actually, I'm going to put the crimp cover on first, like I usually do. So I'm going to make it flat. So I just open it all the way up and put the wire through the middle hole, like so. Add my little crimp bead. Okay. I'm going to bring it down a little bit just so I have some room, and then I'm going to loop this back up the crimp bead. That just holds it, keeps it from coming apart. It works. And I usually pull, like hold this and pull from the bottom. That way I don't have a lot of waste, because you don't want a lot to have to cut off. Okay. So I'm going to grab my pliers here, and I'm just going to pull it tight and squish. That's sufficient for me. I don't really worry about crimp pliers too much. You know, I like them for if you're doing wire work and you have to round out your wire. But as far as crimp beads, I mean, I don't have good luck with them. Some people do, but I tend to break them a lot. Okay, so first things first, and I'm making sure that the loop is lined up here, as you can see. Okay, I'll worry about the jump ring in a minute. All right, so next, now I didn't lay this out with any of the silver, which I'm not gonna worry about, but I am gonna put the silver beads on. So first thing I'm going to do is put a little silver bead on, and to be honest, I need to do it right-handed. So I'm going to put the little silver bead on and the crystal. And, you know, I'm kind of designing on the fly, so, you know, there's always a chance I could change my mind. Alright, so I'm putting the bead cap on and then the strawberry quartz here. Alright, I'm going to put the other green one on. Gotta find the hole. And a silver. So you can always get extra beads, you know, like little filler beads and findings at the sister store, which is Bead Box Bargains. If you subscribe, you get a 30% discount code, and that can be used all month. So that's something worth looking at. And the reason I'm putting a silver bead here before I go into this is just to make sure it's spaced out a little bit, because it is side to side, and then it also hides any imperfections, you know, in the holes in the teardrop too. But it spaces it out just enough to, you know, so it looks smooth. You don't really want a big bead there. Okay, so from here, I'm just going to continue on with my pattern. Oh, and another thing, keep your spacer bead separate from those, because otherwise it will be like a needle in a haystack trying to find it. Okay, so it's going good so far. I don't mind spreading them out just a little bit. And I'm only using 5 for the necklace. 2 of the teardrops, they were different colors. Like one kind of was really clear. It wasn't the pink like the rest of them. So, you know, it just kind of, it showed up way too much. So, and I can use the other one for a pendant. So you can always work with it. Okay. Put the next one on. I really love the strawberry quartz. Has a nice rosaline color to it, you know, and it's not too over the top pink. You know, it's a little more muted, but great for summer colors. Or beach wear, you know, wherever you want to wear it. Okay. So of course I'm going to mess up my beads just a little bit while I do it, but hopefully you can see everything. Okay. So the bead caps were included in the kit and all of the beads that I'm using. The only thing that is not included in the kit were my crimp covers and the little accent beads. But never hurts to build a stash. And forgot to put my bead cap on. So it's quite a difference from, you know, plain like with the green, but when you add the silver, it adds a totally romantic touch to it, which I like that. So, got tiny beads. Sometimes it's hard to see them to string them on, so bear with me here. Okay, so we're halfway through it. I like that. So I didn't really want them too close together, just because, you know, I don't want it to all be crowded in a small space. I want to expand the space just a little bit. I think it looks nice. Okay, so we're getting there. So far she's looking good. I like the little just touch of green in there. You know, it's a tiny touch of green. Of course, the strawberry quartz is the main color, but the green just adds just a tiny bit of contrast. And it looks good. And I guess this would be nicely worn with, you know, a white dress or white shirt, or if you have low cut, you know, it'll look good against the skin. It is a statement necklace for sure. Okay. So I finally did my nails. I just did them in clear so they'd look better. So just decided to keep them natural today. Okay, almost finished. So let's see, I've got silver here. I think this necklace, it might have a little bit of weight to it because it does have a lot of stone on it, but look how pretty and romantic it is. Okay. It's hard to see those little holes sometimes. Just gotta kind of turn the bead until you find it. There we go. I got it. Okay. So I'm happy with that. All right, so next step is I'm going to finish it off. So I'm going to open up my crimp cover. I got these at Bead Box Bargains as well. They have the double loops on them, which helps to make them really sturdy, you know, for jump rings and for chain, and, you know, when you're adding on to chain and stuff. Okay. All right, now one thing before I finish that I love to do is curl it up. The reason I do this is so you don't make it too tight and you don't have any gaps. So that way when you pull this tight, it's not going to affect it because, you know, it just helps to space it exactly. So I'm going to bring this up. Go back through the crimp bead. Got it. And I'm going to bring that down. Oh, well, that didn't work, did it? Okay, take two. Okay, so I'm going to pull that down and pull that up, making sure it's curled but tight. And then I'm going to use this to make sure that's on there good and squish it. Okay, so that feels very sturdy and good. So I'm going to trim very close to my crimp bead. And then I'm going to close up my crimp cover. I usually just do this with my fingers. It works fine. Okay, so now I'm going to just use my pliers to line these loops up just to make sure they're in line with each other. Just a little adjustment here. Okay, not perfect, but the jump ring will do it. Okay, so I'm going to add a jump ring on each end. I'm just going to pull a couple out. When my jump rings stick together, I tend to just pick them up like this and drop them. That usually helps to separate them. Okay, and of course my pliers are magnetic, so that helps with picking them up. So I'm just going to loop my jump ring through here. Then I'm going to take my big flat nose pliers and snap them shut. If they don't snap shut quite the way, then I'm going to pull it apart just a touch and squeeze them together. And always feel at the top if I feel any little bit of, you know, raised part, or just take my needle nose pliers and just gently push them together in order to, yeah, it didn't quite go together, but let's see. Okay, now I'm happy with that. I'm going to put one on the other end. Okay, that went together well. Just a little adjustment on the top. Okay, so we got the first part of the necklace done. All right, so I'll be right back. I'm gonna search for my chain get my chain ready and pick a clasp. I don't think I'm going to use the clasp in the kit because it's really large, but I may use that as an accent bead. So I'll decide in just a few minutes. But all right, so I'll be right back. I'm just going to get some more materials out. Okay, so I picked out this cute little flower clasp that I got from Bead Box Bargains. So I'm going to test it first just to make sure it opens and closes. Sometimes you have to pre-do it because the finish might be stuck on it. But that's really cute. I think that'll be fitting for this necklace. Okay, and I pulled my chain, so I've got a good little curb chain. So, you know, it's got fairly good size links on it, so that'll work fine. And so first thing I'm going to do is I like a 24-inch necklace. Okay, it's a good universal size, plus I also like to make them adjustable. So the first thing I'm going to do is measure this. So that's about 7.5 inches. So if I do 15.5 or 16, I'll just do 16 because it's going to be adjustable anyway. So that should make my 24-inch necklace just fine. I'll just base it on 8 inches. The clasp was going to add more anyway. So since I'm doing a 16, I'm just going to do 2 lengths of 8 inches. I'm gonna find my sweet spot here. Okay, so be about right there. And then I'm going to trim it. With my wire cutters. And then just to keep it easy, I'm going to pull this way and line it up, and then trim at about the 8-inch mark here. Okay, perfect. The rest of the chain I'm going to throw in the box. Okay, I'm happy with that. Okay, so I'm going to pick up this end with the jump ring. And then I'm going to open up my jump ring. I like to use the flat nose pliers just because it works a little easier. And I'm going to put my chain on the end right here and squeeze it back together. Okay. So I didn't do such a good job of that. So I got to grab my other pliers here. And hold on to it and then just work them together, do it side by side until they match up. You just don't want any gaps in there. It feels good. Okay, so I've got that piece on. Then I'm going to do the same thing over here. Add my chain and bring it together. Okay, I'm happy with that. I know that my style pretty much is to add chain to the ends, and that's mainly because you know, if you put beads on here, it looks good, but then it's not really needed. And, you know, you can do so many other pieces of jewelry with those beads. So I kind of tend to like to do that instead. Okay. That's just a good budget way to do your necklaces and, you know, have room for more. I do keep a large stock of chain though, because you always need it. All right, so I'm putting on the clasp and squeezing that together. Ah, got a good snap out of that one. Okay, I'm happy with that. And then one more jump ring on the end. Okay, we'll squeeze it together. And squeeze it shut. This one you kind of have to work with a little bit, but it's all right. All right, so I've got my necklace done. Isn't that pretty? I've got the clasp here just for an accent. And then, now, here's an idea for you. If you don't like it 24 inches, of course, you can adjust your chain however you like. I like mine to be adjustable. So, you know, I like to play with it. But you can also take jump rings and just put a couple of them on the chain going down. So if you want your necklace shorter, say 8 inches or 18 inches, you know, you can bring it down until the, you know, the necklace would be 18 inches. Or, you know, whatever size you want, but you have room to adjust. So I'm happy with that. And sometimes I'll put a little dangle on the end here, but because the clasp is so dominant and pretty, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to leave it as it is. So we have one pretty necklace. Okay, so I'm going to put this aside and I'm going to take a quick break and then we'll start on the earrings. Okay, so now we're going to start on the earrings. So I've got the two smaller rose quartz. Okay, now we're going to start on the earrings. And with the strawberry quartz, I've got the teardrops and then the large beads. I think that'll make a good bold statement earring. So I've got some wire here. And I'm going to go ahead and pull some out. And just kind of straighten it with my fingers the best I can. So I'm going to cut, I guess, about 6 inches. Should be good. Don't need a whole lot. Okay, and the reason I'm using wires, because, you know, you can't use tiger tail on this. Crimp beads are kind of hard to manage this way. All right, so now I am experimenting. So hopefully the wire will go through twice on this bead. If not, I'll have to wrap it at the bottom. But I'm going to start with the top bead. And I'm still using my little... Oop. Actually, I'm going to start with a bead cap on top and bottom. Okay, then I'm going to add one of the... Actually, I'm going to add a round bead. If this doesn't work, I'm going to start over, but I'm going to add another round bead. So I'm just kind of creating a little bit of space to have room because of this, you know, this is side drilled. So I'm going to have room to work with it. Now, I'm not sure that the wire will come up through the other bead. Could have tested it first, but I'm kind of designing on the fly, so you know, if you have to change your mind, you have to change your mind. Try not to make sure those beads don't come off. Okay, there's my hole. Okay. And this is 24 gauge, so it's pretty small wire. So it'll have to be wrapped on the ends, but that's fine. I won't complain. Okay, so I'm gonna run this back up and see if it goes back up through the bead. Yes, it does. Yay. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna leave a little bit and then pull this in. So I kind of want to pull it tight in hopes I wasn't off camera too much. Okay, so let's see. Okay. So I am going to have to kind of pull and, you know, just make sure everything is straight here, because it is going to be a little tough to work with. Okay, so I'm happy with that. And then what I'm going to do is make sure this bead is down straight. And so what I'm gonna do is bring that at 90-degree angle, and I'm going to hold this and then wrap this around a couple of times, just 1 or 2 times if I can get a hold of it. This may not be the way I end up doing this, but I'm gonna try. So 1, okay, 1, 2. All right, I'm happy with that. It went around, so that's all I needed. And then I'm going to trim the end here. Trim that off. Okay, and then to make sure that this wire doesn't poke out, I like to use my crimp pliers, you know, the little rounded part in the front, and just go around it just to make sure that that wire is pushed in just enough to so it doesn't stick out, because you don't want it poking you or anything or snagging on your clothes. And I can also use it to bring this down a little bit. So if you pull down just a hair and then just play with it, get it rounded out. I'm actually going to use 1 pair of pliers and just kind of pull it down. So I'm good with that. Okay. And the next thing I'm gonna do is grab my round nose pliers. I'm gonna make a loop, just a good size loop, you know. We do it at 90 degrees, and I like to pull it back just a little bit to round out that loop, and leaving just a tiny bit of space, and then wrap it around twice there. Okay, so it just makes a little loop. And I'm going to trim it as close to my work as possible. Then I'll use my crimp pliers just to bring it back in. Now, if your loop messes up and it gets kind of wonky here, don't worry about it. It's easy to fix. So I'm just making sure that all pieces are tucked in nicely. Then I'm going to take my round nose pliers and straighten this up. So basically I'm making it round again. And I'll take my thumbnail and just straighten it up like that. And then I'll take my flat nose pliers and just make sure everything's straight there. All right, so happy with the loop. I've got that looking good. Now it is going to be a little bit rigid. Just expect that, you know, because of the spacing. But I think that looks good overall. It's going to be a pretty earring. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do the other one. So again, I'm going to pull out about 6 inches or so, just so I have plenty of room to work with it. I'm going to do the same thing, so I'm going to carefully put on my bead cap in the bead. Then I'm going to put on a round bead, a green, round bead, and I'm going to put my teardrop on. It wasn't very well side to side drilled, so luckily I've got the little spacer beads in there that helps to cover it up. Hopefully it'll be nice and straight by the time I get done here. Okay. So I'm just putting on my beads and making sure my bead caps don't fall off. Okay. So now I'm going to go back up through the bead caps in the one strawberry quartz bead. And I'm going to pull here. I'm going to use my needle nose pliers. They tend to grip pretty well. All right, pull that up and then pull that up. Okay, that works just fine. It's not perfect. I don't expect it to be, but yeah, that looks good. All right, so I'm going to hold this, and then I'm going to take my wire, do it at 90-degree angle, bring that up close, and just kind of wrap it a couple of times just to secure the beads on here. So I have to do it by hand here, but I'm going to bring it around, 1, 2, there. As long as it goes around, I'm happy. Okay. And I'm going to round it out with my crimp pliers. So sometimes it's hard to cut it really close. So I'm gonna try to retrim it here and get it as close as I can. I just gotta find that piece of stick-up wire right there. Okay. That'll help. All right. So I'm just going to bring it around and just tamp that wire down best I can. I can still feel it, so Got it. Okay. And of course now I'm going to make another loop. So I'm going to bring this around in 90 degrees, just like I did before. And then wrap it around twice. I'm good with that. Then I'm going to straighten out my loop here. And it does help to put the flat edge as close as you can. And then I can tamp it down with the crimp pliers. So sometimes you have to work with it. It doesn't always work perfectly, but I just want it to look professional. Alright, so now I'm going to just kind of straighten up this hole. So I have to go up the pliers just a little bit, you know, and that kind of brings down the part that I wrap, but that looks okay. Alright, I'm going to take my flat pliers and just do that. And okay. Okay, little adjustment here and there. All right, that looks much better. Now, so one thing I've learned is not all the holes are going to be perfectly drilled. But what I'll do is I'll just turn it around and catch the best side of it. It's not going to be perfect, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be. But I think that looks good overall. They're nice and even. And this side got misdrilled a little bit, but you know, like I said, you take your fingers and just kind of adjust it. As long as everything lines up, you'll be good. Okay, so, all right, so I've got all that out of the way. Throw my scrap wire away. Okay, and so next I need to get a pair of ear wires. So I'll be right back. I forgot to pull some. I'll be right back. Okay, so I found some little silver plated ear wires. I like to bag these up too and put them in a big box. I'll show you one day how I organize my stuff, but I think the silver plated ear wires will look good. I like the ear wires with the flat edge, and I don't like them too big, but yeah, these with the flat edge, they usually look pretty nice. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, looks like the opening is, or the end of the wires to the inside. So I'm going to pull it back like you would a jump ring. And I'm going to put the earring in the side that I want facing out. I'll go to that side and close her up. And I need to move this one just a little bit just to make a tighter bond there, but that's perfect. Then let's see, goes to the inside, so I'll pull that out. Okay, and I want that side facing the outside. And just making sure that this is as close as I can get to the end. And use your pliers to straighten it if you need to. Alright, so I've got two very cute little strawberry quartz earrings. And I'll be back at another time, and we'll do another video later and see what else we can make from the box. Alright, well, thank you for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe. And leave your comments down below. I always enjoy your comments, and I'll always do my best to answer you. And may creativity be your guide. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave your comments down below. May creativity be your guide.